Hi guys, over the last couple of weeks I've been doing quite a lot of editing. I've been editing the photos from Style Lab Retreat, which was a workshop we held in Iceland about a month ago. Now I've been playing around with all the new features of Photoshop, including Generative Fill and also the Remove tool, and I've come up with a few tips for you for using the Remove tool that might come in handy. So without further ado, let's dive into them. Hi, my name is Charlotte Reeves. I'm one half of Unleashed Education. You tuned into another editing toolbox video. We create these videos weekly and we share one quick tip, trick or technique to help make your pet photography editing life easier. So this week I'm actually being a little bit cheeky. Instead of sharing one tip, I'm actually sharing 6 tips for using Photoshop's brand new Remove tool. And hopefully these will help you have some success with this tool because it can be a little bit fiddly to use sometimes. So the first tip is to make sure you're working with an image that has already had noise reduction applied, whether that's in Lightroom or in Photoshop using Topaz. I've got a really noisy image here for you just to kind of show you what happens when you try and use the Remove tool on a noisy image. So I've got the Remove tool selected. Now this was shot at like ISO 3200, plus I've lifted the exposure quite a bit. So as you can see, it's pretty noisy. So if I wanted to remove this ball here, I would just draw over it with the Remove tool. And can you see this weird pattern that it introduces? It's kind of like trying to match the noise around it, but it's a real definite pattern. It's not a random kind of appearance of noise that you'd expect. Now let's have a look at the difference when we do this to a version of the image that has already had noise reduction applied. So as you can see, there's no noise in this one here. And I'm going to use the Remove tool here. And as you can see, it does a much better job. There's no weird patterning. So that's tip number 1. We're actually going to move to a different image for the rest of the tips. So this is beautiful Balthasar. So my next tip for the Remove tool is to untick up here, remove after each stroke. So how this works by default is that as soon as you lift your finger off the mouse or you lift off the pen, it will do the removal straight away. So let's have a look at how that works. So I've drawn along the leash, I've lifted up and it's immediately done the removal. So let's see what happens when you untick, remove after each stroke. So you can draw here and then you can lift off and it doesn't do the removal yet. And then you can maybe change the brush size and draw a little bit further. And so it will only actually do the removal when you press return on the keyboard and it'll do it all at once. I find this really, really handy. It's especially good for if you are removing lots of little sections. Instead of having to wait for the Remove tool to work every time, you can select all the things that you want gone, press return, and it's all done at once. So my third tip is you can draw straight lines, which is really handy for leashes because it can be a little bit tricky to just draw along the leash. You tend to go a little bit crooked. Even using a pen, I find the same thing. So what you can do is you can click once to start, hold down Shift on the keyboard, and then click a little bit further up the leash and it will draw a nice straight line for you. So as long as your leash or whatever it is quite straight, this is actually a pretty effective way of drawing along the edges, as long as you make sure the brush is a little bit bigger than what you're trying to cover. So tip number 4, if you need to, because you've got remove after each stroke unticked, you can actually change the brush size as you're going. So you can make the brush a little bit bigger, or then you can make the brush a little bit smaller and just build up that selection. And that way, when you hit return, it's going to remove everything all at once really nicely for you. Tip number 5 is don't expect miracles. So Generative Fill is also something I've been playing around with. And you might wonder where to use Remove and where to use Generative Fill. I found Remove is really good for little things. Not so great when it's trying to reconstruct large areas. So if I was to try and use the Remove tool to remove this collar around here, press return. It's going to do an okay job, but I can pretty much guarantee that Generative Fill is going to be a better option for that. So know and understand the limitations and use the right tool for the job. And my final tip for using the remove tool is you can actually draw around something to remove it. You don't have to fill it in completely with the brush. So let's have a look and see how this works. So say I want to remove something. Oh, let's go back to this image here. Say I want to remove this ball. Instead of making the brush big and drawing over the whole ball, if I happen to have a smaller brush, I can just draw around with the brush and it will automatically fill that in. So press return and there it is, it's gone. So hopefully the tips will set you on the right path for using the remove tool and having some success with it. Catch you next time. Bye.